Welcome back, folks. MTG Joe here, and today we're going to be doing a little bit earlier of our weekly meta breakdown for Standard. And this is kind of a weekend tournament edition. So we don't get Star City Games satellite tournaments every weekend, and they're a great source of tournament data for the top performing best of 3 decks. It's the closest we're getting to competitive high stake Magic that really anyone could enter. It's very much akin to your paper Grand Prix, Star City, like their weekly tournament series that they used to do in paper. So basically, you could enter these tournaments through MTG Melee, which is one of the tournament hosting softwares. So it coordinates, and if you get 4 wins out of your 6 matches, then you get invited to Sunday's tournament where there's cash prizes. If you get 5 wins, you get 1 buy. If you get 6 wins, you get 2 buys. But really, this provides us a bunch of data, and it's kind of a cool evolving meta, and we'll see what I mean from this. So we have 5 satellites that have been completed thus far. This is Saturday morning, Eastern time. There'll be some more throughout the day, and then you'll play this Sunday. I think there's 8 that they run. So this one was early Friday morning, Eastern time. So what we see is the top performing decks. We have Monoblack Aggro. We have a Bant Ramp deck at 5-1, a bunch of Izzet Epiphanies, and Azorius Control. If you're interested in any of these deck lists, I will link all these satellite runs in the video description, so you can just go in and you can click. If you like, for example, hover over, it'll give you all the decks. You could import it to Arena, everything like that. So pretty dominant, and when we look down, we can see the percentage of decks that were registered and their overall win rate. And from the first go, and kind of a theme that we're going to see is the prevalence of Izzet decks split between Epiphany and Dragons, as well as Mono-Green Aggro being the decks with the largest representation across each satellite. What varies between them and what we'll see is the win rates. Izzet Epiphany kicked ass first satellite, 75% win rate. This includes games in the mirror match as well, where one player, they're always getting a loss when you play in the mirror. They went 51-23 in matches at 16% of the field. Mono Green had pretty much close to the same representation, as well as Izzet Dragons. The Izzet Dragons listed much, much worse than the Epiphany version at 44%. Mono Green still had a respectable 57%, which is fairly high. If we quickly scan, Dimir Control did awful, Sultai Ramp did awful, which makes sense. The Epiphany version has more counter spells, and these decks just have a bunch of dead cards in the matchup. They can't really deal with copied time walks. Grixis Control, pretty bad. Monoblack Control, pretty bad. Naya midrange. The next positive win rate we have is the Bant Festival deck. It's basically the green-white. It's kind of a mashup. They're playing kind of a ramp shell. It's not as much tokens-wise. They play Coma, stuff like that. And we had the one good showing from Azorius Control in this particular matchup. So Satellite 1, although Mono Green was 6-0, the story here is Izzet Epiphany really demolished the field. Sandy Dog is a fantastic player, a savant at Mono Red. So when I saw his name pop up, I was very excited, hoping that there was a new Mono Red deck, but alas, Mono Green it is. One thing, if you are interested in playing Mono Green, highly suggest checking out Rint MS, Maxim Salim. Rint plays predominantly mono green based decks, and he's my go-to on Twitch to watch if I want to learn mono green, what the latest configuration is. So definitely check him out on Twitch if you're interested in mono green and the archetype. So Satellite 2, what do we have? 2 mono greens at 6-0. And then a bunch of mono greens at 5-1, and then we see a variety of Izzet decks, including some Izzet Delver sneaking in here. We got a Werewolf, some Temur Aggro, but if we look at the distribution here, we see a lot more mono green in this go around. Smaller representation of the Izzet Epiphany and Dragons, and we also see an influx of Izzet Delver. This is likely because Zan Saeed, another streamer, got #1 Mythic on his kind of 24-hour stream with an Izzet Delver list. Zan's a very good player, so this deck's very difficult. He could win with like a shoe. So I think that was just like the flavor of the go. But mono green this go around 62%. And we see Is It Epiphany drop from 76% to 55%. Dragon still suboptimal. Increased a little, but still sub 50. We see Azorius Control still hovering around that 60%. We had 2 players play this, or 4 decks this time as opposed to 1. So a little bit larger sample size. We're continuing to see these festival decks just not perform well. We have a Sultai deck, but even... And this is one to keep an eye on. Mono White Aggro, early showing, 1 in 4, 20%. That kind of goes down. We have Boros Aggro at 4 and 2. When there's only one deck, I don't really like to take the win rate percentage into account because the sample size is small. What we really like to see is for like the top 3 or 4 decks, depending on the distribution of the field, what that accounts for in terms of win rate. So Satellite 1, Is It Dominance in Epiphany? Satellite 2, Mono Green taking the lead. Going to number 3, and we have pretty much a clean sweep of the top 4 positions. Mono Green, sorry, of Aggro. Aggro taking the beating. So we have Mono Green Aggro. We have Mono White Aggro with 2 showings. So this is a list I'm actually playing in best of 1 with Stonebinder familiars. It's more of an exile focused. Very, very good. I'm 21 and 4 in up to diamond with the deck. 3 of my losses were to Mana Screw. That's a very good deck. Monoblack Aggro. This is something I'm going to be looking to play on stream as well. Just a nice aggressive deck. Main board Duress, which seems cool. So something I want to try out as well. So we'll look down meta distribution. Mono Green Aggro now 44 decks, 30% of the field. So Mono Green just keeps going up. Epiphany's staying pretty stable. And what we see here, Mono Green continuing over 60% win rate. Epiphany dropping to 50%. So we went 75 to 60s to 50. So it's getting targeted. And over the course of hours, we see how the meta evolves in this tournament, which is really cool. Real-time meta development. Is It Dragons continues to suffer. Is It Delver 33%. And Azorius Control, which went 5-1 and then to 60% win rate. 2 and 11, 15% win rate. Just absolutely getting bodied. Other notables, Mono White Aggro. This is where we saw the other game. They were 1 and 4. They're 19 and 4 over the 4 decks. So very, very good showing. 82% win rate for these decks, which is quite impressive. Again, these smaller ones we're not going to take into account. 23 games, like best of 3 matches is a reasonable, at least to get some approximation. Going into Satellite 4. Oh, where'd you go? 6-0s. So we see Epiphany, Mono Green, Mono White, Epiphany, Mono Green. We have a Golgari control list. So kind of your Blood on the Snow list. Interesting, this version here is playing Spirit of the Alderguard. It's the bearer that fetches you a snowland. So looking at the decks. Mono Green, 15 decks. So this is 4 and 5 happen overnight. So it's the European, Asia time zones. So they tend to be a smaller percentage of the decks. So we have Mono Green, still 55% win rate. We see a spike back up in Is It, up to 64%. People keep registering dragons and it keeps losing. Notably, Is It Delver? It's a small population, only being 4. Azorius Control continues to suffer. Mono White Aggro, still positive win rate. And then the rest of the decks are pretty narrow. Looking into Satellite 5, we see just a bunch of Mono Green Aggro performing really well, and then some Is It Epiphanies. We don't see another deck until we go to the 15th place player, who's on some 4-color like Treasure Renin 7 copy shenanigans. And here we see 60% of the field with 2 decks. We have Mono Green Aggro, Is It Epiphany? Mono Green continue, 65%. Is It still positive win rate? Mono White Aggro, still 62%. We see Is It Dragons fall down to just 3 decks. So fewer people are playing it, which makes sense. It hasn't had a positive win rate in any of these satellites. that kind of continues. So that's kind of how these first satellites are shaping up. You can register in these if you want to play. You can take a look. I'll look at the untapped meta on Sunday, and we'll take a look at the more ladder. There is a differentiation between these tournament plays. These are known deck lists. You get to see what your opponent's playing, where ladder you're going in blind. So there is a little bit of difference to that as well. And as always, you can find this information here. You can, if there's any decks, you can pull them up. You just go and you could search. You can type in here. You can also go deck lists and then just sort by the format. You can find your format and go from there, and then it'll pull up. So say if you want mono green aggro, it lists every performing deck. So you can see the differences and stuff like that. So quick little meta breakdown. If you want to win in best of 3, it seems like go mono green, go Epiphany, or try to attack it with mono white, which we saw later in the meta kind of evolution. Don't play dragons, but that's pretty much it. As always, have fun playing Magic, and if you can, if you enjoy this content, you'd like to see more, drop a like, comment, and if you can, subscribe. They're all free and easy ways to help out the channel. Lets me do more of these videos. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great one. Stay safe.